Okay, Kristen!
Hi.
When I describe you to my friends and the people in my orbit, I always say you have been the person that I've looked up to the most in my adult life. So thank you for being here.
I really appreciate that, and I will let that land in my heart because it means so much to me. And I'm so
Oh,
honored to participate in the Woo Report and help
yes.
birth it into the world because it's so needed. And I'm so excited for you. And the episodes that I've heard so far have been so amazing. And so I'm like,
Thank
oh my God,
you.
I can't believe I get to be in this lineup. So.
Oh my gosh. Well, you are a top get for me over here. So this is very exciting. When we first met, you were doing PR for New Line Cinema. You were traveling around with celebrities and private jets. You then moved on to run a high-end fashion label. Would you call it that?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah. Okay. And
I,
then
I've done like a lot of my what I thought were my dream jobs. I've really like in the
yes.
course of my career have like checked off boxes that at the time felt like, oh my gosh, this is all I've ever wanted, right? And so it's interesting when you look back and you're like, oh, that served a purpose at this time, but that wasn't actually where I meant to be.
You are where you're meant to be now. And so, how would you describe what it is that you do now for work?
How you would describe what I do now or how I would describe it if it was on paper is I would say I'm an intuitive, meaning I do psychic and healing work. That is sort of a 2D kind of flat way of describing what I feel like I do, which is that I connect the physical and the metaphysical realms for people. So I'm fluent in translating the language of the universe and energy that I see in people to them so that they're able to integrate that into their lives somehow.
Let's get more into exactly what that means.
When people generally think about psychics, we have an old school way of looking at it, which is I go to this person and I ask if the person that I'm in a relationship with is going to be my soulmate and I'm going to be with them forever, or am I going to get that raise I'm hoping for, or am I going to get the house that I want to buy, or fill in the blank, right? The way that I differ is that I don't like to do predictive work. And I actually think this is changing because I think that, and we can touch on this later because it's really complex, but I think timelines are changing and our sense of possibility in the collective, and when I say the collective, I just mean everyone on the planet because we're all connected in a big web. The energy of the collective is shifting such that while you can tap into what you see is likely for someone in the future, dabbling in that can be a little tricky because there's a fine line between planting for someone the idea of something that you see and then and are not actually able to bring that through in their lives, or it's not what they want to hear and they end up having a negative experience from hearing that. So I try not to do predictive work, and I think that's what a lot of people think of as traditional psychic work. I think more accurately, I'm a bit of a coach. So someone comes to me, they're struggling with something, they're feeling really stuck in their lives, whether it's in their personal life and their family dynamic. Most of the time it's in that and their job and their relationships. It's in all aspects of their life. And they're just feeling kind of lost and confused, or there's something specific that they're struggling with. I will allow them to speak a little bit about what's going on in their lives, and then I'm able to almost attach to their energy and be able to read and see and sense. And part of that is receiving messages from unseen helpers. We can call them spirit guides. Sometimes they're ancestors, sometimes they're friends or family that's passed away, sometimes they're angels. There's also like a slew of other beings that they could be, and it doesn't really matter because they're all just energy, sources of energy that are there in a benevolent way to help and help guide you or this person on their path and purpose. And so it's an iterative experience where there's something that comes forward for me and I talk about it, and then they can respond to it, and we can kind of drill down on what's going on. And the intention of this is just to really open them up to a reframe or a different way of looking at the situation that they're in, and also shifting their energy so that they're able to do it themselves when they're not with me. And normally it's really profound and beautiful, and the truth of what comes out afterwards is that maybe for months or a year after a session, that energy is still shifting and changing, and revelations are happening, and things are unwinding in a different way than they would have otherwise.
And I'll speak from experience because I feel like I was your guinea pig maybe on the beginning of these coaching sessions. And what I'll say is I was having what we like to call dark night of the soul. It was post my accident, and I was woken up to spirituality. I was drinking the Kool-Aid, and I thought maybe my life is going to be charmed life going forward. I am never going to have a hardship again, basically, because I am awakened, I am enlightened. And then I just fell into this pit that, I just didn't know what the heck I was doing with my life. And I was stuck. I was definitely stuck. And what you did was so supportive. And what you're just saying now with how you basically helped me kind of reframe things, that I honestly feel like the effects didn't really start until later. And now I feel it's like just so much more at peace. I feel like you helped pave the way for whatever this reframe was to start. And then it's allowed me since to be really just to find the peace in every moment. Whether it's, and I'm not perfect. I definitely still like lose my shit at my kids every now and then, and like get annoyed with Matt every now and then. But it is on such a different scale than it was 2 years ago, than it was 5 years ago, than it was 10 years ago. Like it's all been, it's nice. It feels good. Highly recommend.
Well, that is the whole game. That is the whole game. Exactly what you just said. And by the way, your experience is so relatable for so many people. When people have a moment of awakening or start to wake up or exit the matrix, as people like to say, and which is just a sort of embodied realization that there's more to this life than everything you see, right? Oftentimes you get this boost, this excitement, and it's almost like a serotonin dopamine hit from, oh my gosh, I'm going to deep dive into spirituality. I'm going to learn all these things, and I'm going to hack my life. Well, that's not the point. That's not why we're here, right? We're not here to just have an easy life and coast. We're here to have the ups and the downs. And that realization, once you've started to activate your awakening journey, can be a real bummer for people, because it's like, wait,
It's a real bummer. Yeah.
but I'm awake. Why is everything not easy? And spirit is saying to you, no, it's not supposed to be easy, silly. Like this is the beauty of life, is the navigating and experiencing all the colors of the rainbow that we have at our disposal. That is why we came here. So it's really common to have that experience, and the point is not to be perfect or to find perfection. The goal is to get our average daily vibration up to a higher place, because that is our energy, and that is what will help us call in more of the things that we want, and more importantly, more of the things that are aligned for us and that are meant for us.
I love it. Aligned and meant for us. That's what we want. We want to bring all of that in. Earlier, you talked about spirit, and I just want to roll it back and get to what is your definition of spirit?
The way that I'm using it in this context is spirit, meaning anything that is not of this material realm that we live in. So mostly things that we can't see and energies that are not visible to the naked eye or easily perceptible by our senses. And then when we talk about soul, most simply put, is just the eternal part of you that will remain after your body can no longer function here.
That really lends itself to the question that I'm asking everyone on this podcast is, what do you think happens when we die? Because you just said that our soul lives on. So let's just get into it now.
I had a feeling you were going to ask this. I've obviously been listening. So that question is so complex and has a multitude of answers. And I want to be really clear. I should have said this in the beginning, but I'll say it now. Everything that I say, take it with a grain of salt. If it does not resonate with you, let it go one ear and out the other, because it is not for me or anyone to tell you what to believe, right? It is your sovereignty and your ability to discern for yourself what you believe. And there is no one on the planet today that can answer this question with 100% certainty and knowledge. So I think we should approach this as the way that I do, which is what brings me comfort and what has really flipped the switch for me on thinking about death, which is that I will understand death for myself as a beautiful transitioning into another realm for the eternal part of me. I think death is most challenging for the people that stay behind. And for the person that passes through to somewhere else, it's by most common accounts a really beautiful experience. And it is a releasing of pain and ego and all of the things that keep us in a lower vibrational state. And I believe that you will just get and be able to finally connect with the big picture of what it all meant in this life, and possibly all the lives that came before this or after this or at the same time as this, because there's a lot of different theories around that. But at the very least, it will be a beautiful entering into a new chapter, and you'll just get that bird's eye view of why you were here and what it all meant and what really mattered to you in this experience. And you won't be caught up in all the things that sort of bogged you down while you were here.
I love that. So beautiful. I love everyone's answers to this question. I feel like it's like, you're right, nobody knows. But it's going to happen to all of us. And I feel like, I'll speak for myself, before I had this accident happen, I didn't think about it at all. I didn't think about the fragility of life, and I didn't think about it. I just never, I didn't necessarily fear it, but I never thought about it. And what I've learned spending a lot of time in hospice is by not thinking about it and not recognizing that there is an end, it's harder to relish in the present. It's like realizing that this is all fleeting makes every moment more precious, makes the breeze on your face more precious, makes the beauty around us more precious. So anyway, I love this question. Thank you for answering it.
I mean, you could have a whole episode diving into all of the different past life regressions and NDEs and all of the things that people are studying, because there's tons of it, but ultimately we don't really know. And it really is whatever you believe. And there are plenty of people walking around who are like, well, there's nothing after this.
Totally.
And they're on a different trip, right?
Totally. But that's the thing. That's why, for this podcast, the whole point is to explore the unseen.
Yeah.
I'm not a scientist and I'm not an expert, but I did fly out of my body when I had this accident, and I did have this experience where I was separated from my body. So if that can happen, then all of these beings and all of the spirits that you're talking about and you're communicating with just makes it seem more plausible to me that there is something like that. Because in a society that is, very capitalist, and we work and we get our successes, I think it takes us out of our natural rhythms and our looking inward for some sort of meaning.
You're hitting on all these sort of fundamental truths, which is healing, alignment, throw whatever you want in there, manifesting, love, truth. Those are all inside jobs. No one can do it for you. People can help you and help introduce things to you, but you have to do it. And it's really hard. It's, as you're saying, it's really hard in this day and age. And that is a lot of the work I've been doing now, and a lot of what my guides have been harping on me to talk about with you, because it's so fundamental to everyone on the planet right now to tune into this and to take this moment to really assess what they can do to go inward for even just 5 minutes a day.
So that's one of the things that when you started really, I mean, I feel like you've been coaching me my whole life, but when you started actually talking to me about spirituality on a regular basis, one thing that you said to me was, it was all these kind of soul whispers that I've kept close. One was, look outside for 5 minutes, just look outside. And I was like, is this bitch serious right now? She wants me to look outside. Okay, I can totally do that. We got windows, I'll look outside, and I'm gonna try and do that. I was like, okay. And then it was hard.
Yeah.
It was hard to do at first. And now you'll find me sitting in a stool in my bathtub, where I sit most mornings staring at my old oak tree, who I full on have a relationship with, by the way, which is a whole nother topic we need to talk about. It's like my relationship with trees and
yes,
trees having souls. But okay, but let's dive into how can we connect with ourselves. And I've heard you say, and one of the soul whispers that really helped me too was, how many times a day can you reach for your highest self? And so what does that mean? And how do we do it?
Yes. So we're going to go deep on this.
Let's go.
So everybody buckle up.
Buckle up. But also, let's hope that the internet keeps for us, because the guides are...
I'm so sorry.
We're about to go.
Yeah, for everyone that's listening, it's really an interesting sort of behind the scenes, because I do most of my sessions with people over Zoom, and spirit, as I pointed out, is just energy, and Zoom and the way that we record these podcasts is also energy. And sometimes the energies get a little overwhelming for the technology and things cut out. So we've already had a couple little mishaps here, but you just never know. I've had some really interesting, crazy things happen on calls with clients, and it's always really meaningful and has a point, but it can be disruptive at the same time. So,
and I also love that, for the record, you've told me earlier when we were prepping for this podcast that your guides were waking you up in the middle of the night to deliver these messages. So yeah. Let's hear them. Let's hear what they have to say.
The second that you and I put this in the calendar, stuff started channeling through. And normally I set really good boundaries between my guides, but they were feeling like the best way to reach me was waking me up in the middle of the night when there were no other distractions. So I was definitely getting some 3 a.m. wake ups for 2 hours at a time, which is really interesting. But I think this is there's a lot that needs to come through, and I think it's really beautiful because there's something about this container that you've created with this podcast and that you're creating and that will expand, that my guides feel like this is the right audience and venue for them to communicate these messages, and this is stuff that I'm really passionate about personally. So your question was, what do we mean by how can you connect with your highest self or your higher self multiple times throughout the day? And like I said, the goal is not perfection. It is just to, I like to say, anchor in the frequency of peace and love as much as you can throughout your day, which is just really the same thing. And let's do a little bit of energy 101 so that everybody can be on the same page. So frequency is, when we talk about vibration, our vibe, what we're talking about is the frequency of our energy, which is the amplitude plus the wavelength of the particles in our electromagnetic field. That's the scientific answer, right? I'm not a classical physicist and I'm not a quantum physicist, so we can't go that deep, but a great analogy is if you think of The Wizard of Oz or Wicked as of late, think of this beautiful iridescent bubble that's around you. We all have it, you can't see it, but we all have this beautiful iridescent bubble, and people that can see auras and can see energy will see some version of that. And this bubble contains what I like to think of as the 4 parts of your being: your emotional body, your mental body, your physical body, and your spiritual body. It's actually far more complicated than that, but there's no need for us to get into that in this conversation. But your 4 bodies are made up inside that beautiful iridescent bubble, and let's call that your field. And everything that you come in contact with is going to affect your field. So we have to have good, what I call, and people that do the work that I do call, energetic hygiene, which is, how can you be the guardian and the curator of your own energy, meaning you decide what comes into your field and you decide what doesn't. And this is so important to keeping our vibe high, maintaining that vibe, and being able to live in this crazy world. So we're in this moment right now. It's really an inflection point for society where every single person is being asked to do this. And this doesn't mean you have to do it, but you're being invited by spirit to do this. Can you be more picky and choosy about what you let into your field? And what do I mean by that? Well, if you have a really low vibrational friend and every time you spend time with them, you feel awful afterwards, you're probably going to start to spend less time with them. That's you taking care of your energy and being a little bit protective about it. Now, it gets more complicated because, like you said, we live in this very busy capitalist society where we have things flying at us all the time. And I'm into that bubble. Now, when it's things that lift you up and inspire you, it might be really gentle and faint and just like a hint, right? But what happens when you have 20 different colors and hundreds of drops of food coloring into your energy? it gets brown and it gets mucky. And it's not only hard for you to hear your internal voice and the voices and messages of your guides, but you can't even read their lips because you can't even see through all the noise, right? Mm-hmm. So the first thing we're being asked to do is get really clear about our energy and how we protect it and guard it and clean it out. So maybe you've had a really chaotic day and there's no avoiding it, right? Your job is demanding, your family is demanding. You just have one of those days that's really challenging and there's road rage around you. There's like all the possible things. Can you then take a moment at the end of the day and empty that out of your system, whether that's taking a bath or taking a shower or pausing and being outside in nature and letting that reset your nervous system? It doesn't mean you have to go on a 10-day silent retreat to clear your energy, but there are small things you can do. And more importantly, how can you, before you welcome a thought, a belief, a substance, or a feeling that is not yours into your energy, how can you be that gatekeeper and say, is this worth my attention and my time and my space? Do I want to welcome this into my life? Because your energy is a finite resource. It is your life force. And I think if we thought about our energy and our attention, like we do our bank account, if we thought about the things we pay attention to, like we are spending money, we would maybe look at it a little bit differently, everything that we put into our energy. If you're just binging shows and binging podcasts instead of being silent with yourself for 5 minutes, how can you actually take in the messages that you just received and let them sit in your heart and seed your energy and shift things in your life, right? But if you listen to one thing and you really let it move you and you talk about it with people that you care about and people that you love and you really start to integrate and synthesize those messages, it opens up doors in your life. And spirit, our spirit guides and all these beings that are around us are so desperate to connect. They are always there with you. They are there with you all the time. They want to guide you. They want to help you. They want to support you. And most of the time, they are screaming messages or sending signs, and we are just not getting them because there's so much noise in our lives. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, when you say that, I'm like, yep, that's why I got run over by a car. I mean, maybe not totally, but yes, also, like, I feel like I was definitely getting messages that I was ignoring. And when I think back, and I know I've said this, but I think back and I had a very turbulent brain. I had no peace. Mm-hmm. And, I think I was still friendly and kind and outgoing and all of those things, but like internally, it was a mess. It was a mess in there. Yeah. And yeah, the silence and the stillness. And I also think that that's a lot of the reason why people roll their eyes at spirituality, because we are bombarded and that is the norm. Like that is the norm, to be able to handle it all, the hustle culture and getting it all done. But the stillness is so important. It is. It's hard to make that a habit when it's not one. It's hard to like break into it.
Totally. And it is absolutely radical in this day and age to say, I'm not seeing this reflected in my outside reality by absolutely anyone, and I'm going to choose to do it anyway. I'm going to be a rebel because my personal sanity is way more important than watching the news and really absorbing the energy of fear and lack and scarcity. And you start to believe that the world is a bad place. And the world is not a bad place. Those are just storylines. That is just someone's take, and there's money behind it. telling people that they need to be scared and worried all the time. And I think it's really important that we stop looking outside ourselves for external validation about how the world is and start paying attention to this inner landscape of ourselves and our family and the people that we care about, and just trying to eke out just a little bit of space. This doesn't mean that if you don't meditate, you start meditating 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes at night. If that is not your jam, I would never tell you to do that. But I would say, where can you edit? If you think about your closet, any closet in your house or in your apartment or wherever you live, and you decide, I want newness in my life, but my closet is overflowing and I can't close it. How can you invite new things into your world if you don't make some space and get some of the outdated things that you don't need anymore out of there? And so, we have an overconsumption problem, I think, in this world. And I don't just mean buying things. I just mean over-consuming everything generally. Mm-hmm. But what if everything you brought into your life was something that was truly meaningful and sacred, and something that was absolutely worth your time, your money, your attention, and your heart? It would be such a paradigm shift and a game changer.
So how do we do it? Like, what are some practical things we can do to tap into our highest self? We talked about sitting and stillness, but what are some things that we can do? We're looking outside. What else are we doing?
Well, let's first say who your higher self is.
Okay, let's say
right?
that.
Like, who is this higher self? So your higher self is really just the part of you that is not earthbound. So the energy that makes up the you in this life is actually so vast and so massive that all of you does not incarnate onto this earthly plane every lifetime. Again, whatever your beliefs are, just receive what I'm saying and take it for what it is. But only a part of you is here right now. The really wise, all-knowing, all-seeing, unemotional, no ego, sees the big spiritual picture of the world and this lifetime is your higher self. And your higher self is your true authority. It is the gateway to your heart. Your heart, people often say, listen to your heart. What does your heart say? Your heart is that channel to your higher self. So your higher self is never going to steer you wrong. Your ego will tell you a lot of different stories, but your higher self has always got your sort of highest and greatest in mind and only wants the best for you and everyone around you. So when you're tapping into your higher self, or you're anchoring the vibration of peace and love, you are just aiming in those moments to make the better choice. And I had this really trippy revelation the other day where I think we just passed Groundhog's Day, and I was thinking, I talk a lot and I work a lot in past lives too, but I had this thought of, what if I've lived this very life, this one I'm living right now, thousands of times, and my guides and my higher self are all just sitting there being like, is she going to make a different decision in this moment? Is she going to actually learn the lesson, right? And what if every moment we were approaching it as, in this moment, I'm going to learn the lesson, and I'm going to reach for that just right decision in this moment, i.e., I'm not going to say the spicy thing. I'm not going to snap at my child. I'm going to take a pause before I respond to this. I'm also going to just realize that whatever is going on in my life is not the end of the world, and I'm still here, and I'm still alive, and I've still got a lot of things going for me. So how can we do this in the day-to-day? I think it depends what you feel like you have the capacity for. Like, I do it really crazy, and I don't think anyone needs to do it the way I do it, but because of the work I do, I have to stay super, super clear. Now, I'm also a mom and have to participate in school life, regular life. I'm still a human in the 3D space, and I'm also kind of like playing over here in the spiritual realm. So the way that I do it is not the way everybody has to do it. But if you have the TV on in your house from the time you wake up till the time you go to bed, maybe you try turning it off for an hour and seeing how that feels. And spoiler alert, it's going to feel really uncomfortable in the beginning. You're not going to like it. You're not going to like it if you decide for one day you're not going to go on social media and you've been like constantly on social media. You're not going to like it if you say, today I'm not even going to look at my phone, and you are attached to your phone like it's an appendage. In the beginning, it's going to feel super uncomfortable, but it's about elbowing out that space in your energy and just experimenting with how you feel over time when you just do a little bit of this work. So I say less is more. It's not about necessarily adding new practices in, but rather where can you take away? If you normally go for a walk and you're listening to podcasts on your walk and you really love that, and that time fills up your cup, that's great. But can you take the last 10 minutes of your walk and just have nothing playing in your ears and see what random thoughts pop into your head and what might be messages, or what do you notice in your environment? I mean, spirit comes through animals, spirit comes through numbers, spirit comes through the song that the person driving by you is playing in their car. It can come any number of ways. It can come a flickering light on your neighbor's front porch, could be spirit trying to get your attention. You will not see those things if you are on autopilot listening to something else. So these are really small ways that we can do it. And it goes with, substances and things that you put into your body. If you're having 3 cocktails a night, maybe you try one night where you don't have any alcohol and see how that feels. And so I think I would just encourage people to think about it like cleansing your life a little bit, and like, what can you just play with putting down for a second? If you're super uncomfortable with saying, I'm not going to do that anymore, then don't. Just try it and see what happens. And more importantly, observe. Because even if you can't possibly part with these things, you're saying, forget it. I don't like anything this girl is saying. It's all irritating me and it's activating me, and I'm not going to do this. That's fine too. And what you should do is observe how you feel. How do you feel after you've been scrolling on your phone for an hour? Does it make you feel good? Or do you actually feel worse? Just observing that and having some sort of moment of realization around it is really powerful in your energy. I think something I would love everyone to walk away from after listening to this is that you are so much more powerful than you think you are. And everything you do affects every part of your life. And that shouldn't feel like a burden. That should feel like a superpower.
Wow. Wow. Just dishing out all of the advice here. Kristen, I love it. I'm like, ooh, yeah, well, I'm going to do that. I love it. So good.
Hot tips.
All right. So that is, I feel like that's what we can do if we are taking things away. If there's anything, what's like a step further? If we feel like we're good in that space, we want to take it a step further. What else can we do?
Yeah. So a step further, if you kind of feel like you've gotten to a place where you're like, all right, I feel like I have cut some things out. I'm in a balanced place, right? This is not about perfection. I am feeling some balance in my life. And I'm ready to go deeper with spirit. I'm ready to be my own psychic, right? Because you do not need to book a session with somebody like me to connect. Sometimes it's helpful to get the confirmation, because honestly, with every session that I do, I always say to people, you probably knew some of this before you walked in the door, but hearing me confirm it for you makes you feel really good. So you're ready to go deeper. You need to figure out, and you can start really small, where do you want to find that connection? Maybe you actually just want to know that spirit is there. You say to yourself, I love this idea that spirit's all around me. I like that my grandparents that have passed are with me. People tell me this all the time, but are you there? I don't know. Everybody's telling me this, but I'm not totally sure. So you want to ask for some confirmation. And I would say ask for confirmation when you're in a high vibrational moment. So not when you're angry and mad, because spirit wants to meet you. Spirit is at high frequency and they want to meet you in a high frequency. So when you are feeling calm, you ask for a sign. And I would say you ask for something that is maybe kind of wacky and not something, maybe it pops into your head. You're thinking of a sign and a unicorn pops into your head and you're thinking, that's so weird. I haven't thought of a unicorn in like 10 years, but okay. So you say to spirit, if you are here and you are supporting me, please show me multiple unicorns in the next 48 hours, right? And then the most important advice is let it go. Don't sit and go looking for a unicorn. Let them deliver it to you. And maybe it's not a unicorn, maybe it's a number, maybe it's an animal. And it doesn't have to be an animal in real life. It can be a picture of an animal, or somebody says to you something about that animal. It can come in such a multitude of ways because they really use
to a specific example of when we we're trying to make a choice. I'm just going to give this example. Maybe I won't put it in, but I'm curious if this feels like it's the same thing that you're talking about. But a couple years ago, Matt and I were wondering whether or not we should go to an LCD Sound System concert.
I remember.
Do you remember this?
Yeah.
We had 2 young children, and we really wanted to go for our friend's birthday in December. And I feel like it was still, COVID was still kind of a thing. It was like 2021, 2022, maybe. I don't know. COVID was still around, and we had 2 young kids, and it was right before Christmas, right before the holidays. And we both wanted to go, but we both had a feeling like we shouldn't go. And so we called you, our resident family intuitive, and asked what we should do. And we both picked cards. We both used an oracle deck, and the cards basically said, "Don't go." The cards basically said, we didn't want to believe it though. We were like, we're not going to believe it. We're going to call Christin. And you said the same thing about how, we can make the choice, and we're just going to have to be okay with whatever happens with that choice. So we could go, potentially get COVID before the holidays, or we could choose not to go and not get COVID before the holidays, and we would miss this fun time, but maybe it would be better for our family. And that weekend, everyone did get COVID, and we did not go. We did not go because we finally listened to the oracle card. So this is it's very silly. I mean, that's the very first world decision that we're faced with, right? But it was one that we looked for guidance on, and we found it. And I feel like it was the right one.
100%. And that just illustrates that you really have to be at peace with the fact that when you're seeking guidance from spirit, it might not be the thing you want. And I say to new clients that I work with often, I'm going to give you the session that you need, and it might not be the session that you want, right? And not that I ever want anyone to leave time with me unhappy, but the truth and the thing that is really percolating and showing up in your energy might and often is the thing you have resistance to and the thing that you've been avoiding. The hard thing is often the right thing. And it sucks sometimes, but it is part of the human experience. And so sometimes the messages we get aren't the thing we want, and our guides are never going to say, you can't do that. They're going to say, you can totally do that. But the lesson you might learn is going to be the harder one, right? I'm giving you the easier, more ease-filled, peaceful option. And if you want to choose the hard lesson, go for it. That is totally within your right, and you have free will, and you can do whatever you want.
Oh my gosh. Okay. First of all, Christin, when I first emailed you about what I wanted to talk about, you were like, this feels like 3 episodes. And you're right, of course, because we're running out of time. But a couple things that I want to kind of check off the list for right now, because they're top of mind for me. So I heard you say trees have souls, and I need you to elaborate, because I really do have a relationship with my oak tree, and I really need this validation because I'm feeling a little cuckoo about it.
Well, you 100% shouldn't, because I really wish that everyone had the reverence for Gaia, Mother Nature, that I do. And I know that you do too, because you're somebody that really appreciates being out in nature. And listen, I live in Los Angeles. It is both a natural landscape and a gigantic city. So I sort of, again, am like a straddler of realms, but everything in nature is alive and is a being. So even rocks, obviously we think about animals and insects as being sentient, or, people have different feelings about that. But trees are these ancient beings, or at least this is my experience. Again, everyone has a different take, but trees are really ancient beings, and they're extremely wise. And if you think about the role they play on the planet, they are life-giving to us. They are delivering us oxygen and actually filtering the air we breathe. But more than that, they are magic keepers. They are holders of wisdom, and they will connect with you. And I've heard from there's a mentor of mine that once went off on a tangent about trees, and she was saying that trees are really finicky. And so like you might have this beautiful connection with this mama oak in your yard, and Matt, your husband, might like, she might have no time for him and might not pay him any mind. I'm not saying that that's actually what's happening, but trees can be very specific about who they open their energy to. So it's really interesting that you bring this up, because they are masters of their energetic field. They are the guardians of their own energy, and they will open up their energy and connect to your energy. They can do healings on you. They can send messages to you. They can completely reset your nervous system just by touching them or sitting with them, or they can choose to completely ignore you and go dormant in your presence. So I want to validate that for you, and I'm curious, I would be curious to hear like an experience that you've had with this tree.
So many, but okay, so the tree is this, allegedly it's the oldest oak tree in Pittsburgh. This is what the realtor told us when we bought this house, but like who knows if that's true? I don't know. It is a big, beautiful oak tree that sits at the base of it sits a creek, a small creek, and we're kind of high up. When we redid our bathroom, I had this vision of a bench so I could look out at this oak tree, but the bench didn't come to fruition because of the way that the room is set up. I couldn't get a bench, so I just had the tub. And so I just put the stool in the tub, and I sit on the stool, and it's got this little shelf that I have some crystals, and I have a candle, and I light the candle, and I have some Palo Santo. And I've been sitting there, and I sit there in the mornings, and when I look at this tree, and when I have gratitude for this tree, I swear to you, every molecule in my body goes from sitting to standing. Is that my vibration rising? I don't know. That's like what I feel like maybe it is.
Yes.
But that's like when I sit there, or even when I just look at it, like you told me to do years ago, to look outside. When I just spend a moment and have gratitude and thank the tree, like I feel like this tree is stretching its arms around me and supporting me and holding me up. And there's a branch that Matt thought was too close to the house that now I'm like, we need to get detailed. Maybe we can do this offline about cutting trees down and like trimming trees, because now I have a lot of questions around that. But there is a branch that he cut off, and so it looks like there's an eye. It's like there's an eye, a dark eye, and I swear I like look into the tree's soul through this eye.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Like, you're saying yeah, but I'm really full blown like Mama Oak, and I feel like we get deep most days.
Yeah, and here's what I'm going to say to you. There is so much magic in this world, and we forget it. We don't have childlike wonder. And this is you tapping into that innate part of yourself that says, I remember that there's more to this world than what I am seeing right now. I'm having this connection with this tree, and it is energetic and it is vibrational, and I am feeling the soul of this tree. Meanwhile, everyone around you is like, it's just a tree. What is going on? But you know what?
Around. Yeah.
Be radical and rebellious in your grounding into the belief that there is more. Because people that achieve great things in this world believe that there is more. And if this works for you and is a connection for you, it is because it is meant for you. And I absolutely believe, oak trees are so incredible to begin with, and such beautiful trees. Not that there's a tree that I don't like, but I do have a soft spot for an oak. And I just think that having it in your yard and in your space, it was meant to be there, and it's meant to help anchor you, and it's meant to balance you, and it's part of the medicine that you need every day.
Thank you for that. You really did need that.
You already knew it.
Oh my gosh. I feel like I did, but I just, it just makes me feel so good when you tell me it's true.
Just confirmation.
Yeah, just confirmation. Just like, Matt's like, okay, she's sitting looking at the tree again. It's fine. I mean, no, he's on board. He's on board, but I don't know if he has the same relationship with Mama O
Well,
as I
he's
do.
got birds, right?
That is true. He is very into birds. He's very into birds,
Yeah.
which is new for him.
New. He's
Yeah.
opening up to it, but it's the same mechanism. It's just another vehicle for spirit and for the unseen to come into our lives and shift us.
Oh my gosh. Well, it's like we've been talking forever, and I have a billion more questions for you. So you're going to have to come on, and I'm just going to, you'll come on again, and I'm just going to tease that I'm going to ask you about coming out of the witch school closet and about all of our timelines and quantum leaping and dimensions and all the things that, like, among many other things that I want to
Yeah.
talk about another time.
I mean, we just scratched the surface here.
Scratch the surface.
Listen, there's so much to dive into, and I think, yeah, we only talked about like a third of what we potentially had earmarked as something to talk about, but I think I will just say that if you only take away one thing from this conversation, it's that being the guardian of your own energy and clearing space in your field is so important because you can change the world. If everyone did this and sat in just a minuscule bit of a higher vibration, we would be a different planet, and we will be a different planet. This is happening. The collective consciousness is opening. We are rising. Things are shifting. And if you really can try it out and test it, there's so much possibility for all of us, and a beautiful new earth, brighter future. All of the wonderful things that we all hope for in our day-to-day are possible. I really believe that.
That feels like a hopeful message to end on. And before you go, for my favorite curator in life, is there anything spiritual that we should know about, or like any supportive tool, a book now that we should go read or watch, or help us gently massage our aura with some love?
Well, I think based on what I just advised everyone to do, I'm probably not going to give them any recommendations on things to
Fair,
read or watch.
fair.
You should definitely tune into the Woo Report, and you should listen to every episode as if you need to digest it and allow it to like seed your energy. But I think like one of the interesting things that people can do when they're looking inward is, if you don't have a habit of doing this already, I think it's a really interesting way to play with spirit and to like dip your toe in spirituality, is to write down random things that pop into your head, because most of them are messages and whisperings from your guides and what we would call downloads from the universe. Keep a running list of them, because it is really interesting to come back to them later. And then one other thing I would recommend that it will just take people a minute is you can Google emotional frequency, and there's a chart. The author David Hawkins, I think it's in his book Letting Go, but it will just give you a chart of like high vibrational emotions and low vibrational emotions, and then you can just have the awareness of like, what are we talking about when we say high vibe, low vibe? You might think you know, but it's really cool to see it laid out in a visual. So that's where I would send people.
Oh my gosh, thank you. I don't want everyone to hang up.
I
Want to
know.
come over?
I love it. Thank you. I know. Yes, I do.
I love you so much. Thank you, Christin.
You're so welcome.
Woo! How's everyone feeling after that one? Tell me all of your thoughts. You can join the community at thewooreportpodcast.com or DM me on Instagram at thewooReport. And if you prefer to watch the conversation, you can subscribe to the podcast on YouTube. New episodes every Wednesday. Thank you for following, liking, rating, and commenting wherever you listened. beyond grateful you're here. Bye.